There's something heartbreaking about walking through antique stores today and seeing pieces of our childhood marked with price tags that would have fed our families for months back then. The same items our parents worked so hard to afford, the things they saved for and treasured, now sit behind glass cases with values that seem impossible to believe. We gave away so much without knowing. We donated boxes to Goodwill filled with memories that strangers would later sell for fortunes. The irony cuts deep. What we thought was worthless has become priceless, and what we discarded in spring cleaning sessions now funds collectors' retirement accounts. Every black household in the 1970s had a stack of Ebony magazines somewhere in the living room. Your mother kept them lined up on the coffee table or tucked beside the couch, pages filled with Diana Ross on the cover and articles about black excellence. She'd save the special issues, the ones featuring Muhammad Ali or the Jackson 5, telling you not to mess with them because they were important. Those magazines cost 50 cents at the corner store, and families collected them like treasures. Today, a mint-condition Ebony from 1975 with Michael Jackson on the cover sells for over $1,500. The issues your mother saved in that wooden magazine rack are now worth more than most people's monthly rent. Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life sat in every Sirius record collection in 1976. Your father played it on Sunday mornings while your mother cooked breakfast, the double album spinning on the turntable that dominated the living room. The gatefold cover opened to reveal Stevie in all his glory, and the booklet inside had lyrics printed in both regular text and Braille. Kids weren't supposed to touch it, but sometimes you'd sneak a look at the album art when your parents weren't watching. An original pressing of this album, still sealed, recently sold at auction for over $8,000. That record your family wore thin from playing is now considered one of the most valuable soul albums ever pressed. The weight of regret settles heavy when you realize how casually we let these treasures slip through our fingers. During moves, divorces, and family disputes, these items disappeared into yard sales and dumpsters. Nobody told us to hold on to everything. Nobody predicted that the records skipping from overuse would become worth more than cars. We were just living our lives, making space for new things, unaware that we were discarding pieces of history that future generations would desperately seek to reclaim. Parliament Funkadelics, Mothership Connection, lived in the crate next to your father's stereo system in 1975. The album cover showed a spaceship landing, and George Clinton's wild costume made it look like music from another planet. Your parents would put it on during weekend parties, and the adults would dance in ways that made you laugh and hide behind the couch. The bass line from Flashlight would shake the windows in your apartment, and neighbors would either complain or come over to join the party. Original pressings of this album now sell for $3,000 or more, especially if the vinyl still has that deep, rich black color without scratches. Jet magazine arrived every week like clockwork, thin enough to slip through the mail slot, but packed with news that mattered to black families. Your grandmother kept a shoebox full of them under her bed, saving the issues that featured important deaths, births, and achievements in the community. The beauty of the week was always a topic of conversation, and everyone had opinions about who deserved to be featured. These weekly magazines cost a quarter and were passed around the neighborhood until they fell apart. Complete years of Jet magazines from the 1970s now sell for thousands of dollars to collectors who understand their historical importance. What makes this discovery even more painful is remembering how careful our parents were with money, how every purchase was considered and reconsidered. They bought these items not as investments, but as small luxuries, tiny pieces of beauty and culture to brighten homes that often had more love than money. The fact that their careful choices turned out to be brilliant financial decisions decades later feels like a cosmic joke. They were right about value, but none of us knew it at the time. The Supremes albums filled an entire section of your parents' record collection, with Diana Ross's face smiling from dozens of album covers. Where Did Our Love Go and Baby Love were the soundtracks to your childhood, playing during Saturday morning cleaning sessions and Sunday afternoon cooking marathons. Your mother knew every word, singing along while she ironed your school clothes or braided your hair for church. Those albums cost $4 each when they were new, but today, original Motown pressings of Supreme albums sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and rarity. A wooden jewelry box sat on your mother's dresser, playing Fur-Elise, when you lifted the lid to reveal the tiny dancing ballerina inside. The box was simple but elegant, lined with red velvet and divided into compartments for her rings, earrings, and the good jewelry she only wore to church or special occasions. You'd open it just to hear the music and watch the ballerina spin, careful not to touch anything because your mother's jewelry was precious. Vintage musical jewelry boxes from the 1970s, especially those with intact mechanisms and original velvet lining, now sell for several $100s to collectors who remember their magic. Soul Train record albums sat in a special place in your family's collection, featuring various artists who appeared on the show that defined Saturday mornings. Don Cornelius's smooth voice introduced songs that would become classics, and owning the compilation albums meant you had the best of black music in one place. Your older siblings would practice their Soul Train line moves in the living room, trying to match the dancers they saw on television. These compilation albums, particularly the early ones from the mid-1970s, now sell for hundreds of dollars because they capture the essence of an era that can never be repeated. The cruelest part of this realization is understanding that our family's taste was impeccable. They chose quality over quantity, beauty over trends, significance over popularity. Every item they kept had meaning, purpose, and careful consideration behind its purchase. While other families bought disposable goods, our parents invested in things that would last, things that represented their values and aspirations. They were unknowing curators of cultural history, and we were careless inheritors who didn't understand the treasure we possessed. A set of Corelle dishes with the brown and orange butterfly pattern was the good china in many black households during the 1970s. Your mother saved these dishes for company, holidays, and Sunday dinners when the family gathered around the dining room table. The lightweight plates felt modern and sophisticated, a step up from the everyday dishes used for regular meals. Kids knew not to play around when these dishes came out, because breaking one meant serious trouble. Complete sets of this vintage Corelle pattern now sell for over $1,000, as collectors seek the distinctive design that defined 1970s dining. The Jackson 5's Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5 album was among the first records your parents bought when the young group exploded onto the scene in 1969, but it remained a household favorite throughout the 1970s. The album cover showed 5 young boys who looked like they could be your neighbors, proof that kids from Gary, Indiana could conquer the world. I Want You Back played at every family gathering, and everyone tried to copy Michael's moves and high-pitched vocals. Original pressings of this debut album, especially stereo versions, now sell for over $1,000 to collectors who recognize its historical significance. A brass peacock figurine perched on the mantelpiece or side table in your living room, its tail feathers spread in eternal display. These decorative birds were popular in black households during the 1970s, symbols of beauty and pride that added elegance to any room. Your mother would dust it carefully every week, making sure its intricate details stayed bright and shining. Kids weren't allowed to touch it, but you'd admire its craftsmanship and wonder how anyone could create something so detailed from metal. Vintage brass peacock sculptures from this era now sell for hundreds of dollars as mid-century modern collectors seek authentic pieces from the decade. Mahalia Jackson's gospel albums form the spiritual backbone of your family's record collection, her powerful voice filling the house during Sunday morning preparations for church. How I Got Over and Precious Lord were the songs your grandmother hummed while cooking, and hearing Mahalia's voice meant peace and comfort in your household. These records were played so often that you knew every note, every inflection, every moment where her voice would soar and make the adults close their eyes in reverence. Original pressings of Mahalia Jackson albums from the 1960s and 1970s, particularly on Columbia Records, now sell for hundreds of dollars to collectors of both gospel music and vintage vinyl. A macrame wall hanging decorated your living room or hallway, the knotted rope forming intricate patterns that were both artistic and functional. Your aunt or a family friend had made it during the macrame craze that swept through Black households, creating beautiful pieces that added texture and personality to bare walls. The natural rope color complemented the earth tones popular in 1970s decorating, and these handmade pieces represented creativity and skill within the community. Authentic 1970s macrame wall hangings, especially large or complex pieces, now sell for several $100s as vintage home decor enthusiasts seek original examples of the era's craftsmanship. Perhaps the most heartbreaking realization is that our parents' generation deserved to benefit from this unexpected windfall. They were the ones who worked multiple jobs to afford these small luxuries, who saved up for months to buy a single album or magazine subscription. They should have been the ones to discover that their careful choices had become valuable investments. Instead, most of these treasures were lost to time, circumstances, and our own ignorance about their worth. The generation that created the value never got to enjoy the financial rewards. Aretha Franklin's Lady Soul album sat prominently in your parents' collection, the Queen of Soul's voice representing everything powerful and beautiful about Black womanhood. Chain of Fools and A Natural Woman played during your mother's cooking sessions and your parents' Saturday night dance sessions in the living room. The album cover showed Aretha in all her glory, confident and regal, everything a Black woman should be. Your parents treated this record with reverence, understanding that they were witnessing greatness in real time. Original Atlantic Records pressings of this album now sell for thousands of dollars, as collectors recognize Aretha's peak period as some of the most important music ever recorded. A wooden salad bowl set with matching servers was your family's pride during dinner parties and holiday gatherings in the 1970s. The dark wood was smooth and polished, and your mother would fill it with crisp lettuce, tomatoes, and her special dressing that everyone asked for the recipe. The large serving spoons and fork were carved from the same wood, creating a set that looked expensive and sophisticated. These bowls were hand-washed and carefully dried, never put in the dishwasher because proper care was required for quality items. Vintage wooden salad bowl sets from this era, particularly those made from exotic woods or by renowned craftsmen, now sell for hundreds of dollars to collectors of mid-century kitchenware. Curtis Mayfield's Superfly soundtrack album dominated your older brother's record collection, the music from the movie playing constantly in his bedroom. The album cover featured Curtis in his signature style, and songs like Freddie's Dead and Pusherman told stories that were both exciting and cautionary. Your parents had mixed feelings about the music, appreciating Curtis's talent while worrying about the movie's subject matter. But the music was undeniable, and even they found themselves humming along to melodies that were simply too good to ignore. Original pressings of this soundtrack, particularly in stereo, now sell for over $1,000 as collectors seek one of the most important soundtracks in film history. A ceramic cookie jar shaped like a chef or a smiling face sat on your kitchen counter, always filled with homemade cookies or store-bought treats that your mother doled out as rewards for good behavior. The jar was both functional and decorative, adding personality to the kitchen while keeping sweets fresh and accessible. Kids knew to ask permission before opening it, and the sound of the ceramic lid being lifted meant someone was about to get a special treat. These vintage ceramic cookie jars, especially those with intact lids and no chips or cracks, now sell for hundreds of dollars as collectors seek authentic examples of 1970s kitchen decor. Isaac Hayes' Hot Buttered Soul album represented the sophisticated side of your parents' musical taste, the long, elaborate arrangements perfect for adult listening sessions. The album cover showed Isaac in his signature sunglasses and chains, looking like the coolest man alive, and his deep voice narrated epic versions of songs that stretched for 20 minutes or more. This wasn't music for kids, but you'd hear it playing when your parents had company over, the adults nodding appreciatively at Isaac's arrangements and orchestrations. Original pressings of this groundbreaking album now sell for thousands of dollars to collectors who understand its importance in the development of sophisticated soul music. A set of amber-colored glass dishes brought elegance to your dining room during the 1970s, the golden color catching light and creating a warm glow during family meals. Your mother used these dishes for special occasions, and the complete set included plates, bowls, cups, and serving pieces that all matched perfectly. The glass was thick and heavy, substantial enough to feel important but delicate enough to require careful handling. These dishes represented your family's aspirations, a step toward the finer things in life. Complete sets of vintage amber glassware from manufacturers like Anchor Hawking now sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars as collectors seek authentic examples of 1970s table settings. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On album sat in a place of honor in your family's record collection. The cover image of Marvin in the rain representing the serious social consciousness that defined the early 1970s. Songs like Mercy Mercy Me and Inner City Blues played during family discussions about politics and civil rights. Marvin's voice providing the soundtrack to your education about the world beyond your neighborhood. Your parents would listen to this album late at night, talking quietly about issues you didn't understand but somehow felt were important. Original pressings of this masterpiece now sell for thousands of dollars, as collectors recognize it as one of the most important albums ever made. A decorative mirror with an ornate gold frame hung in your living room or hallway, reflecting light and making the space feel larger and more elegant. The frame was detailed with scrollwork and flourishes that caught the eye and added sophistication to your family's decor. Your mother would check her appearance in this mirror before leaving for church or special events, and it served as both functional and decorative element in your home. These vintage mirrors, particularly those with original frames and clear glass, now sell for hundreds of dollars as interior designers and collectors seek authentic period pieces for mid-century modern homes. The Temptations' greatest hits albums filled several slots in your parents' record collection, the group's harmonies and choreography representing the pinnacle of Motown sophistication. My Girl and The Way You Do the Things You Do played during family gatherings and Saturday cleaning sessions, everyone trying to sing the different vocal parts and imitate the group's smooth moves. The album covers showed the five men in matching suits, looking professional and polished, everything you wanted to be when you grew up. Original Motown pressings of Temptations albums from the early 1970s now sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on the title and condition. A wooden spice rack hung in your kitchen, filled with small glass jars containing the herbs and spices that made your mother's cooking special. The rack was both practical and decorative, keeping seasonings organized while adding warmth to the kitchen decor. Each jar was carefully labeled, and your mother knew exactly which spices to use for different dishes, creating flavors that brought the whole family to the table. The wooden construction was solid and well-made, built to last for decades of daily use. Vintage wooden spice racks from the 1970s, especially those with original jars and labels, now sell for hundreds of dollars as collectors of vintage kitchenware seek authentic examples of period organization and style. A brass table lamp with a fabric shade provided warm lighting in your living room, the heavy metal base substantial enough to anchor the corner table where your mother kept her reading materials. The lampshade was earth-toned, matching the browns and oranges popular in 1970s decorating, and the brass was polished to a warm glow that reflected light throughout the room. This wasn't just a light source, but a piece of furniture that added class and sophistication to your family's living space. Vintage brass table lamps from this era, particularly those with original shades and working mechanisms, now sell for hundreds of dollars as collectors seek authentic lighting from the decade. Diana Ross's solo albums marked her transition from supreme to superstar, and Ain't No Mountain High Enough played constantly in your house after its release. The album cover showed Diana in all her glamorous glory, hair and makeup perfect, representing everything beautiful and successful about Black womanhood. Your mother would sing along while doing housework, and Diana's voice provided the soundtrack to getting ready for special occasions. These records represented aspirations and dreams, proof that Black women could be sophisticated, successful, and celebrated. Original pressings of early Diana Ross solo albums now sell for hundreds of dollars as collectors seek music from the queen of Motown's peak period. A wooden jewelry box with multiple compartments and a mirror inside the lid sat on your dresser, holding the small treasures and costume jewelry that made you feel grown up. The box was lined with soft fabric and had tiny sections for rings, earrings, and the special pieces you wore to church or family gatherings. Opening the lid revealed your reflection and your small collection, making you feel elegant and sophisticated even as a child. The craftsmanship was solid with smooth hinges and a sturdy construction that suggested this box would last for years. Vintage wooden jewelry boxes from the 1970s, especially those with original linings and working mechanisms, now sell for hundreds of dollars as collectors seek authentic examples of period craftsmanship and style. The saddest truth about these discoveries is that they represent more than just missed financial opportunities. They symbolize a loss of cultural continuity, a break in the chain of passing down meaningful objects from one generation to the next. Our parents couldn't have known that keeping these items would make economic sense, but they knew their cultural and emotional value. We were the generation that forgot, that prioritized space over significance, convenience over heritage. Now we pay strangers hundreds of dollars to buy back pieces of our own childhood, fragments of our own history that we carelessly discarded when we didn't understand their true worth. Which of these items takes you back to your childhood home the fastest?